Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to do take two of the Cinco de Mayo yoga session. My audio microphone transceiver connection fell apart halfway through the session, so audio crapped out about halfway through. So we're going to take two. This week we're going to be looking at half moon pose and all of the different component pieces that go into making half moon look like half moon. So we're gonna break the pose apart into its component movements. We're gonna look at each of them individually. We're gonna look at different movements that you can do to strengthen yourself and to feel more comfortable in the movement itself so that you can start to get a hang and a feel for how this pose works and all the different component movements that go into it. So it's not important whether you're able to create and make the final pose. What is important is to be able to feel the movement of all the different component pieces that go into it. The pelvis twist, the side flexion, the lifting of the leg, all these different pieces that go into it. And being able to feel each of those component pieces. If you get the component pieces eventually with enough practice, you'll be able to put them all together into something resembling a half moon pose. So don't feel frustrated. We're aiming to make everything feel good. So you feel like, yeah, I can do that. I'll keep working on it. So we're going to start seated. We're going to use a chair. We're going to use a chair both for these first couple of movements, and we're going to use the chair for additional balance as we do the some of the more standing balancing bits. So we're going to start here. I'm going to put my hands on my knees because we're going to start with the glutes. And the glutes are quite important here in terms of allowing the hip to rotate on the planted leg. So here's how we're going to start with the glutes. Shins vertical, knees about same width as hips, so your thighs are parallel. I'll put my hands here just so you can see what's going on. What we're going to do is we're going to push one knee forward. That's going to be this one. The other knee pulls back. And then we're going to release back to center. So no muscle engagement. So we reverse that. This knee moves forward, this knee moves back, and release. So there's the movement. Now, let's do a little breath work with this. As you inhale, one knee moves forward, one knee moves back. When you exhale, we release to center. Inhale, exhale, and release. Inhale, engage. Exhale, release. Inhale, exhale. There we go. I'd like you to set your own pace based on your breath rhythm. This is going to be nice and slow, nice and smooth, and nice and gentle. You will notice that there's a pause at the end of the engagement before you begin your exhale and your release. So engage, there's a brief pause there. Exhale, release. Inhale, engage, pause, exhale, release. And oftentimes, after doing this for several different revolutions, you're going to start to feel some muscle heat, some prana, some energy, whatever you want to call it. And I would like you to try and find where that heat is coming from. What muscles are we using here to make this movement? And release. So the answer to that question, what makes this movement happen with the alternate knees forward and back, is the glutes. And you may be feeling them, especially just to their attachment point, just a little to the side of the sacrum. So we're going to continue with that movement. We're going to add a little bit something to it. So we're going to pull the torso and especially the psoas and the iliopsoas into this equation. So we're going to move the knees in the same fashion, but as we bring the knee back, so in this case my right knee is pulling back, I'm going to lift my foot a tiny bit off the floor and then exhale and release. So left knee is back, lift that foot a tiny bit, exhale, release. So the back knee lifts at the back of the stroke. So do the knee movement first, forward and back, and then lift that foot off the ground. So inhale, move and lift. Exhale, put it down and release. Notice as we do this movement, you want to keep the spine nice and erect. Let's do one more each side. And release. Let's take a little look at the back next. When we do half moon, we want to have a nice strong back so that it doesn't collapse either sideways or forward. So we're going to do a little bit of movement with the back right now. It's a simple movement. We're going to lift the arms up, bring the arms down. Your gaze is going to follow your hands. So as your arms lift, follow your gaze, follow those hands up. And as the arms come down, your gaze drops down too. So what we have in terms of the movement of the back is a modified cat-cow. So as we lift, this is pretty much the same as a cow position. As we drop the hands down, there's an arched back, there's cat. So inhale, lift. Exhale, come down. Inhale, lift. Exhale, down. And let's continue this nice and smoothly. Next time you lift, I'd like you to pause briefly there and notice the long, straight, extended back. Just notice that back position. We're going to come back to that back position right here with a number of different movements today. So let's put the chair aside. We're going to start with a little bit of work on our balance. So balance is one of the major challenges in Half Moon. And we're going to strengthen our legs, our feet, and work on our balance right now. So I want you to find 3 points on your foot: base of the big toe, base of the pinky, center of the heel. So find those 3 points on each of your feet and have your feet about hip width apart. And what we're going to do is anchor both feet down into the ground, into your mat, into your floor, into the ground, whatever you're on. And I want you to imagine a huge magnet underneath the feet that are pulling the feet down, 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 anchoring them, grounding them into your mat. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to do a little bit of a side-to-side movement, just working on our balance. And what I want you to focus on is that attention to the foot, the anchored foot. So I'm going to start by anchoring my right leg here, and I'm going to gently lift the left foot very slightly. So this foot, keep your attention on the anchor, that magnet pulling you down, your foot pressing into the ground, into the mat. That constant attention on the anchor point, shifting from foot to foot, that is crucial here, because when you pay attention to your feet and your anchor point, your balance will improve. The key is, how do you do that? It is a meditative challenge here. So let's add the breath work in here. We're going to exhale as we put a foot down. Inhale as we lift the other foot. Exhale, put a foot down. Inhale, lift the other foot. Exhale, down. Inhale, up. Your challenge here is to keep your focus on the anchor, your foot pulling into the mat. And since we're doing this in such slow motion, it gives you time to anchor that foot before you lift the other foot. Anchor, lift. Anchor, lift. Anchor, lift. There we go. Let you do a few of these on your own. Keep your focus on that anchored foot. And release. We're going to continue our balance movements here. We're going to add a bit of a rotation in the pelvis. One of the key movements in Half Moon is being able to rotate the pelvis around to the side. So take a side view. We're going to rotate the pelvis around in this direction to the side as we tip over into half moon. So that rotation at the pelvis is crucial, and we're going to start looking at that right now. So here's what we're going to do. Anchor your left foot, bring your right foot out, and put your toes down. We're going to move the right foot forward, bring the toes down, back to the side, and then behind you. So we're going to tap 3 times. Okay? Going to tap forward, tap to the side, tap to the back. Notice as the foot comes back, the pelvis rotates around to face the side of your mat. Let's do one more cycle here. Again, notice the pelvis. Notice what's going on at the top of your left thigh when you have that rotation going on. Come back to the side and release. Shake out that planted foot. And let's go to the second side. So anchor your right foot. Left foot lifts and toes down to the side. So we tap up front, tap to the side, tap behind. Notice the pelvis rotating to the side. While you're doing this movement, you want to keep your attention on your anchored foot. That's going to help greatly with your balance. Let's do 2 more arcs here. And release. All right. So that was kind of a step-by-step rotation of the pelvis around. We're going to do that more on a flying sort of movement right now. We're going to do the same basic movement. Anchor your left foot, raise your right foot, but instead of tapping and bringing the toes down, we're going to try and just swing them freely. So they're just going to swing nice and slow, front to back, without the foot coming down to contact. If you need to, and you have a balance emergency, you need to bring the foot down, feel free. Key here is to feel this movement when the foot is back. That movement, that rotation in the pelvis off the planted leg is crucial for half moon. So keep your attention on your planted foot as you swing your other foot in a nice big arc, forward and back, and release. Shake that leg out a little bit. All right. We're going to anchor the right foot, right leg, lift the left leg. We're going to swing it in a big arc. Pay particular attention when the foot is back in the rotation of the pelvis. And at the same time, keep your moment-to-moment attention on your planted foot. Feel it grounding into the mat. And release. All right. We're going to look at a forward flexion. The hamstrings do play a part in uh, half moon, and we're going to look at the forward flexion. We'll do a side view here so you can see what's going on. So again, feet about hip width apart, feet parallel, and we're going to bend the knees a little bit. And we want to start with a nice long back. So if we were to lift the hands up, model that same back position. Some of us find it helpful to put our hands behind our back like this. You can let your hands hang down if you wish, whatever you find is comfortable for keeping a nice long back. So we're going to flex forward, come back up nice and slowly. Keep the knees in their current position, so they're not straightening they're not bending and straightening as we come down and come up. They maintain that nice little bend through the whole stroke. Exhale down, inhale up, exhale down, inhale up. I'd like it if you could go a little bit deeper and pause for a second there and come back up. So we're going to go deep, pause, and then come back up. Exhale down, pause, at deep position, come back up. When you pause down at the bottom of the forward flexion, I want you to feel what's going on here in the hamstrings. Got a nice hamstring stretch. When you're low on that forward flexion, then the hamstrings engage to bring the torso back up. Let's do a couple more. And release. All right, hamstrings. You may be able to feel a little goings on in the backside there. We're going to look at a movement that kind of gets us started in combining all of the different component movements for half moon. And we're going to start in a standing position. So feet about hip width apart again. And what we're going to do is we're going to push one knee forward and the other knee back. So this is what it's going to look like. My left knee, let me try a 3/4 view here, see if that works any better. My left knee is going to push forward. My right knee is going to push back. So this is what it looks like. Notice left knee, right knee. Come back to center. And then we reverse that. Knees, here's the right knee forward, left knee back. Come forward. So the breath work here is exhale as you push the knees forward and back. Inhale, coming back to vertical. Exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this. Maybe you'll see the knees a little bit better. Here's my left knee forward, right knee back. Right knee forward, left knee back. Let's do a few of those and then I'll point out a couple of things to watch. Exhale down, inhale up. and release. Let me point out a few things here. So when we do this movement, one knee forward, one knee back, one thing that happens, as you'll notice, is that as my right knee comes back, left knee forward, my pelvis rotates a bit towards the side. We were just working on pelvic rotation in that standing position where we were swinging the leg back and forth. That's the same sort of pelvic rotation that we get here. Also like you to note that what happens with the torso as my left knee moves forward, right knee back, notice what happens with the torso. The torso tilts a little bit in a kind of a side flexion. It's not quite a full side flexion, but it's starting in that movement. So as the legs move, the torso tilts over into a side flexion. So I'd like to do a few more of those right now. I want you to also watch the shoulders. So as my knees move and the pelvis moves and I have a start of a side flexion, I want you to take the shoulders and rotate them a little past the movement of the pelvis. So as I do this, I'm turning a little bit more to the right. And as I do right knee forward, I rotate a little more to my left. So shoulders come a little past the pelvis. All right. Let's modify that a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to work on that rotation on the planted hip joint a little bit more. And we're going to start fairly simply. And that is that as we move the one knee forward, my left knee is forward, right knee is back. When I have the knee back, I want you to slightly lift the heel of the knee that's back. So in this case, my right heel is going to lift. I come back to center. Exhale, one knee forward, one knee back. The heel of the back knee lifts, back to center. So the heel of the knee that is back lifts off the floor. You'll notice that this particular movement forces a lot more awareness of your balance. And we're going to take that one step further by lifting the knee back foot completely off the ground and swiveling it back and away. So here's what it'll look like. Left knee forward, right knee back. I'm going to lift that right knee and let it swing around behind. So you notice what I've got here. I've got a pelvic rotation to the side. I've got the start of a side flexion right here. It's not a big deep side flexion, but I've got the start of a side flexion. Come back to center. Reverse that. Right knee forward, left knee back. Lift that left foot, bring it back. So exhale as you come down and lift the foot back. Inhale. And release. So that movement there kind of starts to put all of the movements together for what we're going to end up with in Half Moon. So I'd like to come down to table position, and we're going to work a little bit on the hip lift, the pelvic lift, and we're going to start with table, and I'm going to show from a head-on position, and then we'll look at it from the side. So I'm going to start like this in table, and we're going to take one leg straight back, and then we're going to lift. I can see you can't see what I'm looking at. So we're going to take the right leg back, and then we're going to lift that hip. So here's my right iliac crest, my right hip bone, way up, whoosh, rotated nice and high. I'm going to drop it back down towards the mat and then lift it back up again. We're going to do it 3 times on each side. Let me shift around so you can see this from the other side. So my left leg comes back, and of course I'm kicking my chair. Lift the hip up, drop it down, lift it, drop it, lift it, drop it, and come all the way down. So that's a warm-up here. What we're going to do is do a little bit of work with the hamstrings and the quads to get us ready for that final movement. So here's what we'll do. We're going to take the right leg back. We're going to lift that right hip, and then we're going to drop the body back so the vertical thigh moves back towards the back heel. Then we come back to center, bring that knee down. Left leg comes back, drop the body back, come back to center, knee down. So knee lifts, come back, and now we're going to combine that movement along with the hip lift. So right leg back, hip lifts up, then keeping that hip lifted, we come back and forward. Drop the hip, drop the knee. Left leg up, lift that left hip up towards the sky, drop back towards the heel, back to vertical. Let's do one more each side. Leg out, hip lifts. Left leg, hip lift, drop back, come back to center, and drop all the way down. We're going to take a look at a different way of assisting that lift in the hip. We're going to do it from table, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the leverage of the extended leg to help us lift the pelvis even higher. And this is what it's going to look like. We're going to start, and I'm going to show you a head-on view. We're going to start with the right knee lifting, and then the right leg extends back and away so that the leg comes out on the other side. I want you to focus in this position on lifting the hip up. Bring the knee back, bring it down. Left knee up, shoot that leg across to the other side of the body. Let that torque from that leg on the other side help you lift the hip up. Come back, knee down. So here's the breath work here. Inhale as you lift and extend the leg behind. Exhale as you bring the knee back and down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. I want you to notice as the leg swings back and across that you can get a little bit more of a lift in that pelvis with the leg coming across the body like this. We want to get that feeling of hip lifting because that's a key component of half moon. So we're going to take a look at a pose that mimics half moon, and it's called knee moon. We're going to do this. On from a table position. So let me show you what the positioning is going to be like, and then I'll show it from the side view. So if we look at our mat and we look right here, we draw a line down the middle of our mat. We're going to start with the hands in their usual table position, but we're going to start by putting our right knee right on that midline, right there. And then the right foot comes out here towards the edge of the mat. So the shin, sorry, you can't see that. The shin comes across like this. It's at an angle. It's not straight down the mat. It comes across the mat. So we're going to put that knee across the mat like that. And then what we're going to do is lift the left side up into what is essentially half moon, but we're doing it from our knees. If you want to bring the foot back, notice my foot coming back, you may notice that you'll get a little bit more lift in the hip, and that's perfectly fine. That's a good movement to get a little bit more lift. Let's look at it from the side. We're going to take the right knee back. We'll first position our left knee, on the middle line of the mat. And then we're going to come into knee moon. So notice the leg is lifted. The hip here is lifted up towards the sky. The hand goes up towards the sky. The shoulders are vertical. We have a nice long position here. So let's come out and let's go to the other side. So we start in table, put the right knee on the midline of the mat. The right foot is going to angle out towards the right edge of the mat. We're going to lift the left foot, left hand, lift that left hip up towards the sky. And there is knee moon. So come on out. So that'll give you kind of a hint as to what the final position is going to look like. Of course, we'll be standing, and we're going to move into standing right now and do a couple of movements to assist in getting our muscles ready and getting them familiar with some of the component parts here. So we're going to start with an arm lift, and we're going to focus on the back a little bit here. So we've done arm lifts first. We started in a seated position with the arm lift. I'd like to do just a few more just to reinforce that long back. So a little bit of bend in the knees. Arms swing forward and up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. All right. So just a little reminder to the back, nice and long, nice and strong. So we're going to take a little further look at the back side of the body. And what we're going to do is we're going to start and we're going to take one foot back just slightly so that your foot is on your toes. Then we're going to take that same knee and push it back and extend the leg down and away from the torso. And we step out. Inhale, foot comes back, push that knee back, lengthen that leg away from the torso, and step out. Inhale, lengthen the leg. Exhale, step back. Lengthen. Exhale, release. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now I want you to feel what's going on here as we do this movement. Notice the engagement in the hamstrings. Also notice the engagement in the lower back as we extend that knee back and lengthen the leg. Just feel that movement. All right, let's modify this a little bit. What we're going to do is combine the arm lift with the foot coming back. So here's the breath work. Inhale as the arms come up, leg lengthens. Exhale, come back and release to center. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more on the left. All right. So we're going to add one more little piece to this, and that is that as we lift and lengthen the leg, we're going to lift that back foot off the ground. We're keeping the leg extended and the knee pushing back, but we're going to lift that foot a little off the ground and tilt a little bit forward. Exhale out. So here's the breath work. Inhale and tilt. Exhale, come out. Inhale, lengthen that leg, arms lift, tilt forward. Exhale down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Let's do one more each side. Very nice. So when you're doing that, I'm hoping that you're able to feel all of the muscle engagement that goes on the backside of the body when you do that sort of movement. Full engagement all the way up the backside. So let's look at a side flexion and how we may approach that. What we're going to do is we're going to use a pose called a side warrior. And the positioning of the feet is going to be crucial here. So we're going to take the left foot and put it right out by the left edge of the mat. And your foot is going to be at about a 45-degree angle. The right foot is going to be towards the right edge of the mat, and it's going to be straight down the mat. So back foot is at a 45-degree angle. Front foot is straight down the mat. So we're going to take the right knee and move it forward so that the shin is vertical. And then we're going to find that hip bone right here, the right iliac crest. And we're going to take that and we're going to push it down towards the thigh. Come back up. Towards the thigh, back up. Let me show you what this is going to look like from the side. Shin vertical, find that right hip bone, press it into the mat, or into the thigh, sorry. Exhale down, inhale up. Exhale down, inhale up. Now, to further that side flexion, we're going to bring the shoulders into play. So the shoulders have basically been mimicking the angle of the pelvis. So they're kind of off to the side a little bit. What we're going to do is take the shoulders and bring them even more to the side so that they're facing straight to the side. So instead of at an angle, they're going to be straight on. So bring the shoulders like that. Find that hip bone, press it down, come back up. Exhale down, inhale up. Exhale down, inhale up. Exhale down and up. Let's do a couple more here. Notice what's going on the right thigh, the right hip joint, top of the thigh. And release. So what we're doing with the shoulders is really attempting to keep the hips opened. We're going to move to the second side. So my left foot is back. Or, I'm sorry, my left foot is forward. Shin is vertical. Right foot is back. Bring the shoulders around so that they're not facing the same direction as the hips, but angled a little more to the side. Find that left hip bone, iliac crest. Press it down into the thigh. Come up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Notice the shoulders. We want to try and keep the shoulders facing straight to the side. That's going to assist us a little bit in keeping the hips to the side also, keeping that hip rotation. And release. All right, I think we've covered all of the component movements for half moon. Let's take a look at what the final pose looks like. Now, we're going to use a chair. We're going to use a wall. If you have a block and you prefer to use a block instead of a chair, that's great. The wall helps with the balance, and I'm really more interested in having all of you feel like you understand this pose a little bit better, and we're not so much concerned with whether you can do a perfect half moon. Success in increments is far better than trying to do something and feeling like you just can't do it. So let's look at all the component pieces for half moon. So we're going to start with the chair, in my case, is maybe 3 feet in front of me. And we're going to start facing the chair. And we're going to bend a little bit in the knees, so a little knee bend. Then we're going to rotate the hip around and at the same time tilt forward a little bit. So we're going to continue to tilt forward using the chair as a balance point. If you want to bring your foot back to tap the wall, that's perfectly fine too. What we're interested in is getting the basic movement here, and we can work on the fine points of balance later. So here's what half moon looks like with the assistance of a chair and possibly the wall also. So come on out. I'm going to move my chair around. We'll do it on the second side. So again, my chair is about 3 feet apart, 3 feet away from me. May need to come a little closer depending on, or farther depending on how tall you are. So we start sideways. We start by bringing the left foot back so the hips rotate around. We start bringing the leg up and the torso down. Arm comes up. Notice that we've got the chair here if we need the balance. If we don't need the balance, you can bring the hand down either to a block or the floor, depending on how much rotation you get in your planted hip. So there's what it looks like. This hip is lifted up high towards the sky, arms straight up. Come on out. Let's do one more each side. Starting facing the chair, rotate the leg around so the hips start the rotation. Continue with that rotation. Bring the hip up, bring the leg up, torso comes down, parallel to the floor, arm comes straight up. Notice that hip lift. Notice what's going on in the top of the thigh, the planted left thigh. Come on out. And let's go to the second side. So we start with the left leg rotating around. Come down. Torso comes down parallel. Leg is parallel. Arm goes vertical. And there is half moon. Come on out. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit about half moon, how to put all of the component movements together so that you can start to enjoy the movement in half moon. It is a fun pose. So thanks for joining me. Namaste.